Hi, I'm Tara.
Hi, I'm Michelle.
Welcome everyone back to Books and Beyond. So, on this episode, we are going to be speaking to one of the most talented graphic novelists in India, Abhijit Kini. And amongst others, he's written for Tinkle, which we all know is India's leading comic series.
Yeah, Tara, he's super talented. I mean, he has artistic and storytelling skills. And in this episode, he shares tips for young writers and artists who aspire to be like him.
So, let's just get into the conversation.
Welcome, Abhijit.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me over.
Welcome. So, we're super excited to have you here because we grew up reading comic books and now, it's our chance to actually talk to somebody who creates them. So, could you tell our listeners a little bit about you and your books?
So, as a graphic novelist, that's like a heavy word to use. And I really like it when I introduce myself as a graphic novelist because sometimes when you say, I draw comics for a living, people are like, Acha, comics? Suddenly, when you say graphic novels, it suddenly sounds so much heavier.
It sounds legit.
Yeah, it sounds like, oh man, you're in it for something very, very heavy. What is it though? That is the entire curiosity aspect of it. So, I have been a comics fan ever since I remember, right from probably age 4 or something that I've been reading and collecting comics as well.
What was the first comic that you read?
Tinkle, of course. Tinkle was one of my first exposures to comics, and which is where I think life came a full circle for me when I started drawing for the comic myself in 2004. So Tinkle, of course, then Tintin, Asterix, and not much later was Mad.
And what about Archies?
Archies were there every now and then. I wasn't like into the Archie fandom as much as a lot of my other classmates in school or later college also were in, because what used to happen was Archie was so much more accessible. People were more used to seeing Archie on their bookshelves.
Yeah, actually, I began reading comics through Archies.
But I was a guy who used to look for the other comics. So I used to go to the bookshops, Raddiwalas especially, the second-hand bookstores. In fact, in Khar market itself, there were a couple of Raddiwalas, where I knew exactly which shelf they used to keep their comics at. So we used to go to give our old paper and plastic junk or whatever at home. And then I used to go with Dad to pick up those comics specifically. And
So
I used to ask him,
Yeah.
my exams are over. Now I need 5 comics more. So that's where I think the whole comic collecting thing began. And I know. I used to keep doodling and sketching every opportunity as to get, envelopes, newspapers at home.
And you are self-taught. So
Self-taught.
How did that go about?
Well, for one, I noticed that after my schooling, I had a choice of going into formal art training or go in for some media-related courses. And I figured that cartooning, per se, I would not call it a silly decision or whatever it is. But I thought I don't want to be molded by anything right from the start. If I'm doing something in my own style, I'd rather stick to it. And that is when Bachelor of Mass Media started, BMM started in Mumbai University. And we were the first batch of it. So I could do my advertising studies or whatever alongside. I used to doodle and freelance alongside college. And
What are some of the first stories that you came up with, the first comics that you came up with?
First comics, in fact, in school itself, I used to draw some. I used to be so excited to see a Ninja Turtles cartoon or a comic. I used to actually draw something called the Ninja Frogs. So Ninja Frogs, I think, were one of my first comics I must have doodled when I was in class 3 or 4. But professionally, in Tinkle was my first published comic strip.
And how did you get that break?
Oh, yeah. That's a fun story actually to talk about. So my mom, my parents were always aware that I'm into comics and they used to buy me the comics I wanted. I was never the guy who used to ask for gadgets or video games or anything. I was always a comics guy.
We can so relate. We just ask for books.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying then. I was never the video game kid.
The book girl.
Yeah, I used to
books.
And I used to look at my friends play all these Nintendos and these, tabhi it used to be the cassette wala cartridges.
Right.
I used to play it with them for 5 minutes and I used to go back to my comics. So they knew that I was into comics, and Tinkle was one of my first loves, if you want to call it that. So my mom took me to meet the late Anand Pai.
Yeah, we read that, yeah.
And that was in class 8 or 9. And that was my big fanboy moment. And I was like, there's Anand Pai himself. He got me to meet Savio Mascarenhas, who had also been on the Tinkle team for the last few years before that. And they got me to sketch a short comic just because, they wanted to humor me.
And that comic related to the Tinkle.
Yeah. It was a short story. It was a small little joke with the one-page jokes. I drew it. I sent it. Uncle Pai sent me a letter back saying, it's nice, but you're still in school, so we won't be publishing it. Maybe once you are ready after your education or whatever, once you have a good portfolio, we'll... Of course, that's the stuff he would write to kids.
But that's so encouraging, actually.
It is. In fact, that actually got me to sketch even more, aiming to, break into it. And in 2004, I went back again because by then I already had a portfolio with magazines and newspapers.
So tell us about your first break.
The first ever break was the first official newspaper/magazine was Jam. And I think my peer group, a lot of people started with Jam magazine back then. So I used to do these little doodles for them. I used to do some music reviews for them. But even before that, I was on a holiday to my native place, Mangalore, and one of my grandparents' neighbors...
I'm Mangalorean too.
Really? Nice. So my grandparents' neighbor was an ex-bank manager. Not just a manager, he was a banker, big shot banker. So he was coming up with a book on banking, types of managers, types of people. And he wanted someone to doodle out those little cartoons. That officially is my first printed piece of cartooning.
I love that.
I was in class 11 or 12 that time.
So when you started at Tinkle, was it the same editor or was it somebody different?
It was
How
Uncle
is
Pai.
it working with your mentor now?
Yeah, in fact, Uncle Pai was there in 2004. He probably didn't remember that one encounter we had back in 97, 98, but I reminded him. And there was Reena Puri, Savio, all the team members were there. And the first ever story I got was something called How the Zebra Got Its Stripes. Very funny kiddie story.
We love the humor in your books, by the way.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And, my style was a little too extreme back then for like a Tinkle story. So I had to kind of tone it down. I had to kind of make it a little softer. But we got some good response for it. And I think since then I've been drawing for them.
Nice.
So how do you get ideas for your stories?
See, when it comes to my own comics, like the ones I publish, like Angry Maushi or Fanboys, these are characters based on everyday life. I just have to look around, and we are living in a city like Mumbai or a country like India, where all you need to do is look around to get subject.
Like the Rhyme Fighters, the unsung heroes.
Oh, absolutely.
Without
Rhyme Fighters is about everyday Mumbaikars. There are these people we come across, there are these people we see. We might not think too much about them, but if they're not there on that scene, our life in a city will not be the same. So it can be a traffic cop, it can be a fisherwoman, it can be a boot polish wala, pan wala, all these people. And I call them the real superheroes of our everyday lives, So that is where I think most of my inspiration comes from, everyday people.
So what is the process of actually, creating a comic book? So how long does it take you?
So I think there are certain comics, I make it sound like all technical and, this is how I went about it. But sometimes it's a matter of 7 to 8 days for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I would have that idea at the back of my mind, but I would never... people would hate me to say this when I say this, because I actually teach this in a couple of institutes, how to go about...
Do tell.
Yeah, but sometimes I have these ideas at the back of my mind, and then I just need to storyboard it quickly and then get started on the production part of it. So because there are other deadlines, because there are other commission projects and Comic Cons, working on my own comics sometimes gets a little difficult, giving it time, So 8 days, 10 days, there were a few comics I finished in 4. So the process generally is have the concept, kind of work around how many pages it's going to be for the story, and split it up into panels. Decide which ones are the wider ones, which are the full page ones, and add as much as action to it if it's an Angry Maushi comic, or add as much as story to it, like for example the Ek Din Ka Hero comic that I have, which I've got here.
So do you write the text out first, or is it the other way around?
It can happen both ways. So sometimes I feel that maybe something I've got in mind, like a layout I have in mind, commands a certain sort of dialogues, I work the other way around. Otherwise, it's generally text first, art later.
And what makes for good dialogue in a comic book?
It has to be snappy, and people don't want to read as much. If it's a comic, it has to be a balance between the amount of words and the artwork. So you need to be very concise, snappy, have sound effects, as many funny ones or impactful ones.
Yes,
I
I
like,
note-
I like the
yeah.
idea of sound effects actually.
Yeah, like we noticed with the rhyme, like
Yeah.
it was interesting. I was reading it for the rhyme actually.
Thank you. That was an experiment, by the way. Rhyme Fighters was a complete experiment, and I was kind of pleased with the positive responses we got. A few of them hated it as well. They were like, this is too short and this is too yay for that money we are paying. But it's self-published. I mean, we put in the money ourselves, we print it ourselves, we retail it ourselves. So obviously self-published comics would be a little more expensive for lesser pages. Generally, I mean...
Is there a market for, mainstream, traditional publishing houses to publish these sort of works? And why did you choose to self-publish?
See, my first experience with self-publishing was pitching Angry Maushi. When I did pitch it, they said it's way too adult, way too extreme, and way too political also at times to...
But it's for adults, right?
So here's the sad part. In India, comics is still seen as a children's medium.
Yeah,
We were going to ask you that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that is where the entire issue lies. People's minds are still very narrow when it comes to comics. So here's where things like Comic Cons help. All age groups come over. They're curious to see what's happening on the Indian comic scene. That is where we introduce, this is for you, this is for your kid. Your kid can't read this, but you'll enjoy it. That is something I enjoy. I kind of love promoting to, the older age groups. And most of my comics that I self-publish is for 16 and above. Most of them, not all of them.
So I've actually attended a Comic Con in Bangalore like
Okay.
a few years ago.
Okay.
And I noticed that there was a different section for the Indian artists,
Yes.
Indian comics and Western.
Yes.
And surprisingly, most of the people were drawn to the Western comics. Have you experienced this? And
That happens.
What do you think?
That still happens. And it happens in all Comic Cons. And I don't blame people,
So why do you think Indian artists don't get as much exposure?
because I think the Western comics juggernaut has been around forever. And all these American publishers, DC, Marvels, and all these people have been around for like 70, 80
Yeah,
years.
giant.
There's a
What is
legacy.
the Indian comic book scene like in India? We know of you, but we don't know of many others.
True.
See, there are about 5 to 6 artists / publishers like me, like independent artists and publishers like me, who have been churning out comics on a very regular basis. But there have been standalones as well, and there are quite a few independent creators who are on the scene today. So that is where, like a Comic Con or any of these indie fests that happen, indie comics fests and all these other comic platforms, we get to showcase what we've done, And Comic Con gives us a chance to come on stage and talk about it, promote it, gives us press. So what happens is that the comic scene, though small, is having, a sizable number of eyeballs attracted
And
to
what's
it
the
right now.
scope for, people who want to get into comic books and who want to write comic books?
See, I mean, scope-wise, a lot of newcomers would come and ask me this, is there money in it? Can you make a living out of it? So I'm like, none of us are billionaires or trillionaires or anything.
Yeah. We loved what you said about it, that you do it for the satisfaction.
Absolutely. I do it for the satisfaction. I go by that saying with a very cliched one, love what you do what you love, or whatever that is. But we are in it for the passion.
But how do you sustain yourself?
See, what happens is an artist needs to branch out. You can't just do one thing only. And this holds true not just for comics, but for any art form. If you're drawing well, you can also go into merchandising. If you have IP, you can also go into pitching as other media.
Or teaching like you do.
Teaching like I do. I am a visiting faculty at a couple of places. We actively take workshops. That's a domain that we have been very active on. And it's me and my wife, Diksha. We run, Kini Studios.
And what is your drawing, sketching, writing routine like?
So, I mean, I've made sure there's a discipline in that sense. I mean, I wouldn't call it discipline like a Karate Kid, wax on, wax off or something. But I start my day, my work at around 9:30, 10 o'clock. Then that is when I kind of do all the commissioned work first.
Do you find it more freedom when you work on your independent comics? Because then, the story is yours and the art
Yeah.
is yours.
No, that happens. Although most of the comics that I do for Tinkle are characters that I have been working for since 2006 and 7. Like the Defective Detectives that I draw, I have been, drawing that comic strip for the last, I think, since 2007, 6 or 7. So I think it's a good 14 years. So even those comics, I feel like I have a good license and they've given me that.
What about Supandi?
Supandi, every now and then I get a small little Supandi comic strip to draw. And the first time I drew Supandi, I was like, this is so cool. This is a character that everyone loves. I loved growing up. And I finally got to draw Supandi. Shikari Shambhu. My favorite to draw actually is Tantri the Mantri.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's a good one.
He's pretty wicked. And he's not like the goody two-shoes, children's book character. He is actually an evil, wicked guy who's up to no good. And I love drawing such characters, where the eyebrows go all, the eyes go all squinted with anger or
like
evil.
Angry Moshi.
So Tantri was fun, but Supandi, I find myself doing a lot of fan art. People come to Comic Cons to get their tinkles signed. So they'll ask me to draw Supandi. So I've drawn a lot more Supandi as fan art. But yeah, I've drawn Supandi for Tinkle. It's there's a very specific way you draw him, especially with the head size, the kind of number of hair strands.
Yeah, it really stands out, right? Sketch. Yeah. So what if an artist really, wants to build a portfolio before they approach, these giants like Tinkle and stuff? What would you advise to these writers?
It depends on what they want to show. I mean, is it that they want to show their writing skills as well or only drawing? Either way, there has to be a mock comic that they have to make with as many layers of storytelling in it.
Like a book, you mean?
Like a 4 or 5 page comic book. And pitch it. I mean, that's the best way you can go about it. That shows how you can adapt to scripts. That shows how you can come up with ideas and how you can work on layouts. So that is the best way you can maintain your portfolio.
And what's been your favorite character to create so far?
In my own domain, it is Angry Maushi, for sure. I mean, ever since people saw the first look of Angry Maushi at our stall at Comic Con in 2011, there has been that level of interest about her. Who is she? What does she do? She's a superheroine who does not wear capes but a Nawari sari. She's not the typically objectified female superhero that you find in DCs and Marvels and all the other. Because sure, I'm a comics geek, nerd, or whatever you want to call it. But my foremost issue with character designs when it comes to female characters, you can't fight crime and do all those acrobatics wearing these 2-piece bikinis with high-heeled boots. I mean, it's just too
100%,
kinky.
Yeah.
It's just wrong.
a male
sometimes.
fantasy.
And a lot of artists have a problem with the objectifying of women because of all these comics are, male-dominated. So.
And that has been some sort of, I won't call it a controversy, but there's always been a conversation happening between people saying, is this a male-dominated thing? Is it targeted at...
Are there many more male comic artists and female, and why?
Artist-wise, no. Artist-wise, I see a good mix. But I'm saying readers. Like, for example, your DC and Marvel is largely seen as a male readership. But that has changed, I feel, thanks to all the movies that have come out. It's become so much more inclusive. There have been movies which... and now, especially with the new DC wave, where they are really looking at female superheroes in the way they should be. Not the objectified types. So I think there's a good mix of genders today, both creators as well as viewers. But largely earlier, and especially in the 90s, comics was seen as a male-dominated readership, which is where the 2-piece bikinis came in. The 90s comics were the most objectified ones, I felt. DC and Marvel.
Still haven't seen many comic books which have female protagonists in that
Who
way.
look real.
And who look real. Yeah.
Which is where Angry Maushi comes in.
Yeah, we're so glad you made that change. Like, people keep talking about, making that change, but they don't do it.
Yeah, I think, again, like, the first concept about Angry Maushi is that saying, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. And it's so true.
And we love her dialogues. So, like, how much thought do you put into, the humor?
I'll be very honest. The first time I created the Angry Maushi comic, I just went all out. I was like, let's have some fun. I'll just put in as much as...
no censorship, nothing.
Nothing. And over the years, I've felt very guilty about it. But it's also been an aspect that people have liked, that there has been a no-holds-barred comic. And we come up with a nice disclaimer at the start saying this is for mature readers. This is not for children. So my newly launched Angry Maushi Citizen Pain is something which I have kept a lot of things in mind while making, especially with the kind of, I won't say I've lessened the bad words or anything like that, but I've kept it a little cleaner than the previous ones.
So why is that? Did you get feedback?
There has been feedback. I won't say no, and we are living in a very sensitive society today.
How much of reader feedback do you incorporate into your work?
Not much.
Then you can't be yourself.
Yeah,
I
I mean, here's what I do. If you like it, great. If you don't love it, I'll probably come up with something in the future which you may or may not like. So that's like
That's
a
great.
ongoing...
Something for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, see, because if 10 people hate something, I know 5 have liked it. I would not want to alienate those 5.
That's true. And I think if you keep catering to the reader's taste, then you completely forget yours.
Absolutely.
And how do you go about promoting these comic books? How do you increase awareness about them?
I think we're living in the times of the internet marketing, or whatever you want to call it. You know, we use social media, we use Insta, Facebook ads. We use these events like Comic Cons, reaching out. We have our own e-commerce.
Do you like
website.
doing all of that?
Oh yeah. Oh
That's
yes.
good to know.
Oh yes. Because interactions. Comic Cons and all these other events are about interactions. And when you meet people who are reading your comics, it's always nice to see their reactions or hear them out. I'm not saying, again, I'm not going to incorporate everything they tell me, but there are certain things that I would love to hear from them. The book signings are also awesome. And all those quick sketches that they ask me to do, it's so much fun doing that.
What is that one piece of advice that you tell all your students?
It is about maintaining a style of your own. Now, this is one issue that I've seen very often that comes up. New talent, these new, upcoming artists or whoever, if they want to become artists, they are so heavily influenced by anime and manga that, I mean, that's not a bad thing at all. But the art style is also anime and manga. That is where my problem personally lies. The art style has become that.
They don't have their own vision.
I feel sometimes that, you read something, you get influenced, fair enough. But when you create something, use that wherever possible, but don't make it look exactly like it.
So what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced in your journey?
First, I think it was about the fact that I'm self-taught. So since I didn't have a certification or a degree from an art school, it was a little difficult convincing people.
So why was it a challenge, when you say you didn't have that formal training?
See, even if you can do something in a particular way which fits the bill, clients or whoever were commissioning the artworks to me would be like, but what if he does not do it because he is not formally trained? That label counted for a brief period of time. But once I got my first few breaks and the portfolio started to build up, it was easier for me to show them, this is what I've done, this is what I can manage, this is what I can do. But initially, this was the thing. And also, as all Indian families, outside of the inner circle, like my immediate relatives, my parents, they're super supportive. But the outside circle was always like, what are you going to do, doing this? Convincing them, I mean, I knew that I didn't have to convince anyone. It's something that you're doing on your own. But those questions, right, that was something which was really annoying to feel.
So how did you get over that then?
That's practice, I think. Learning your zen, being in your zone when you're talking to certain people. You still get asked this.
And since you spoke a lot about support system, we loved that how you work with your wife, Diksha, and she runs your merchandise.
Yes.
But does she also contribute to your stories? Like, have you
yes.
decided to co-write?
Oh, yes. She's got co-writing bylines in a couple of them. So no,
great.
it's
And do you guys fight over it? How do you decide?
There have been arguments. Like if she wants a particular way the story should end or the way I see it going, and sometimes we come to a middle ground. It happens. And sometimes my mom also contributes.
So family effort.
So everyone's part of the Kini Studios bandwagon.
And do you feel that Indian comics rely heavily on mythology and they need to be, experimenting with different subjects?
I think mythology has been something that has been around for a long time in media. And it is something that our country has a lot of source material for. So yes, there has been a lot of mythology in comics, but I think today we are seeing a lot more content come up. It has to do with a lot of Mahabharata that we used to see on TV. It has to do with a lot of the Bal Hanumans and all these other cute characters that were made into IPs.
So we're going to have a little rapid fire round now, Abhijit.
Okay.
So Abhijit, the illustrator or the writer?
Illustrator.
One graphic novel that comes to mind.
Watchmen.
Okay. The top illustrator in India right now, according to you?
It was Mario Miranda. So those shoes are too big to fill.
If it had not been art or, graphic storytelling, what would you have done?
A chef.
Really?
Yeah. I right from very young age, I was totally into cooking. I used to help mom in the kitchen. I know how to cook. And I tried to follow up on catering, like the hotel management institutes and all. But then, of course, I went into.
But it's a good backup.
Oh yeah, it is. Oh yes, definitely.
Your favorite adaptations of comic books?
You mean the movie?
Movie adaptations.
Oh, that's a tough one now. These adaptations are not particularly direct to it, but again, I would say the closest thing I saw was 300, the movie.
Western or Indian comics?
Damn, that's a tough one. Western for the concepts, Indian for the traditional roots that they try to incorporate. See, I played it safe.
And some recommendations for our listeners.
In Indian comics, yes, do try out Angry Maushi. Please pick up Tinkle Comics. The way they are today, the way the stories are told, the characters that have come in, it's so today's India, and they've kept with the times. So please, for people, sometimes I get people saying that, I used to read Tinkle as a kid, stopped. Please pick it up. It's a fantastic read. Not just because I draw for them, but generally as a fan.
I think I'll do that too.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's super fun. Mad, definitely. Mad magazine is a very essential set of magazines for satire and humor. And Asterix, one of my favorites.
Graphic novels or comics?
Both are the same.
No, which word do you like better?
Graphic novels. Graphic novels sound serious, comics sound funny. So it depends where I am and what I'm talking about.
We love talking to you, Abhijit. Thank you so much for talking to us. It's
Thank you so much.
It's like reliving your childhood every day. I mean, you have the most coveted job.
And I love your imagination and your enthusiasm. It's amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. In fact, it was great fun talking about comics. That's something I really love talking about. So
we
thank
can
you.
tell.
So keep doing what you do, and we're looking forward to the next Angry Maushi.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Talking to Abhijit actually reminded me of all the times I really wanted to take out time and sketch well, Tara. So I sketch horribly, but I do want to get better at it.
I think you sketch pretty well. I've seen some of your sketches. I can't draw a straight line, but the conversation was so interesting regardless because it's another way of storytelling. And Abhijit is so full of ideas and he's so talented. And you guys should all pick up his comics and see what he has to offer.
And on our next episode, we'll be talking to Avni Doshi. She's the author of The Girl in White Cotton. We'll be talking to her about her writing process, her inspiration for the book, and much, much more.
So stay tuned for our next episode. And if you have any feedback or any other recommendations for us, reach out to us. We are at Bound India on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.